Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain. But you feel it. You felt it your entire life.
The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
A very scary experience.
You know, God is a solution. God, the 12 step.
I like where he's going here.
Helps the community grow, helps us grow. Monty has done a phenomenal job. And you're talking about taking people through a spiritual process, getting them into recovery.
Thanks, Monty, and thanks for all your support.
We need spirituality to make this thing work long term.
It's an absolute pleasure. He certainly knows a lot of people.
This is one of the places that is about the business of the solution.
And now, broadcasting on location somewhere in the vast expanse of the Pacific Northwest, it's the over-opinionated 12-stepologist, the Monty'man.
Well, hip, hip, hooray, we didn't drink today. Do you want a cookie?
Chocolate chip, please.
Yeah. We're going to have some fun today, folks. Welcome to the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show, the world's original recovery talk and positive music radio station and podcast. And we are going to have some fun today. We have, of course, on the phone our co-host from Southern California, specifically Huntington Beach, California. Which was, by the way, Huntington Beach was mentioned in the movie Jesus Revolution.
Yes, it was.
And,
yeah.
I know Roger. He lives there. So Roger's with us, and our special co-host this week, not that Roger isn't special, is Dion Miller. And I'm going to introduce him more thoroughly here in a minute. But before we do that, Dion, you're in Colorado, right?
I am. I'm in Northland, Colorado.
Yeah.
It's beautiful out here today. It's beautiful.
So we got Colorado, Oregon, and we got sunny California. So welcome aboard, everybody, to the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show. Our email address is take12radio@comcast.net, and our main website is take12radio.com. The topic, this is a two-parter, and this is going to be a little interesting. Because we want to introduce you to Dion's Recovery Podcast in kind of an interesting way here. Part one, we're going to be talking about the fourth step today. And then next week, part two, we're going to be talking about the fifth step. But we're going to be talking about the fifth step on Dion's broadcast. And we'll have that all linked up on our website and on our Facebook and all that kind of stuff for you as well. But before I tell you about that, I want to tell you about this. I hesitatingly did this, but for the cause of carrying the message, I did sign up for a TikTok account. Okay, conservatives, don't throw watermelons at me. But I did, and we need followers on there. We have to have 1,000 followers before we can go live. So if you will go, it's just at Take 12 Radio, the little at sign at Take 12 Radio. That's our TikTok link. Or you can link it at take12radio.com. It's right there by my little picture. And follow us on there and click the little heart button. That helps with the analytics and all that stuff. Simply for the cause of getting the, hope and recovery out as much as we can. All right. DT, okay, we got this to do first.
And now, are you paranoid?
They're after me.
Are you scared? Are you worried about every little thing?
Oh, no.
Well, maybe it's time to have some fun with Conspiracy Corner.
That's right. Dear Montyman, this is an email. I am a heroin addict. I had a year and a half off everything, got suicidal and relapsed, went through treatment, and am in what's called a recovery house. The recovery house has guys who are newly sober. We pay rent, work, and follow a few simple rules. Part of the program is to attend AA. So I go to 3 to 5 times a week meetings along with an IOP and therapy. AA preaches about 12 steps that will grant psychic change, and allegedly you will stop drinking once you find faith by working the AA program. I ask questions. They tell me I need to be spiritual. So I asked to define that term, and nobody really can. I asked if I could do these steps without a higher power, and the answer from many is that unless I find a God, I will die. AA is the most presumptuous, ridiculous, over-the-top, groupthink, nonsensical, faith-based cult. I'm absolutely shocked at the lack of logic. Apparently, I'll be dead soon, so I thought I'd post this.
Wow.
Woo!
You're dead, bud.
Wow. So evidently AA is the cult. And if you go, if you it's interesting to me, guys, and see what you think about this. It's interesting. If you look up the definition of cult in the Oxford English Dictionary, he's not far off.
No, he's not.
That would actually be the definition of cult, according to Oxford, is really close to what most churches are, too. Yeah. And here it is. A system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. A relatively small group, although AA isn't small anymore, of people having spiritual beliefs and practices regarded by others as strange or imposing excess control over members. That sounds like some meetings I've been to.
Yeah, absolutely.
A misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular thing. Okay. Don't you be messing with my big book. A person or thing that is popular or fashionable among a particular group or section of society. But I know what he's talking about is the idea, is some sort of evil, weird thing going on where people are forced to jump off cliffs if they aren't obedient, that kind of stuff. Hey, listen, this attitude towards 12-step programs, it's been around for a very long time. So although I appreciate the sentiments, you're not alone. You're in good company. Hey, Dion, what would you say to this guy? What would be your recommendation to him?
AA is the largest cult nobody wanted to be a part of, first of all. I'm sorry you had troubles in the meetings. That stinks. I'm on a principles before personalities kind of a thing. Maybe try some different groups. Maybe the groups you're going to aren't the ones that fit for you. But what you need to do is you need to go to meetings. You need to look for the similarities, not the differences.
There you go.
We alcoholics and addicts, we feel so set apart as it is when we get here. So try and look for those similarities. And then Rule 62: take the program seriously, not yourself.
Not
take yourself so darn seriously.
Yeah. Roger, what would you say to this guy?
Well, I would agree with Dion wholeheartedly. What I would tell him is what happened to me. I went there 3 different times. I was sent there by the courts.
Yeah.
And the first 2 times I went, I didn't listen. I didn't care. I didn't relate. And I didn't believe that I was a problem, all that stuff. So I was in 100% denial. And until I started listening, the last time around, until I surrendered to the fact that everywhere I went, I was a problem and drugs and alcohol were involved, then nothing changed. So when I began to relate, I began to listen. I found it to be a fellowship of loving people and not a cult of, and if you don't like the meeting, find another one, because there's thousands of them.
Sure.
And millions of us walking around the earth who probably felt very similar to him when we first went into the rooms.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was definitely a fish out of water. What really made me uncomfortable though was the way the building was situated. You couldn't sit by the front door so you could get an easy escape. It wasn't possible, right? You're like, ah!
Don't stand by the door over here.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna hang in there, my friend. Listen, I think if you take the suggestions of these two guys, I think you'll do okay. We get it. It's just not a natural. My natural tendency is to be out, doing weird stuff and changing the way I feel because I can't handle life. So it's not natural for me to be sitting in a room of a bunch of people sharing some of the stuff they're sharing. So we get it. We understand. And, put up with us and we'll put up with you. All right. We'll be back after this short break with the topic and with our special co-host this week. So don't go away. Do not go away.
What is happening to me?
The answer is out there.
The world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth?
They're watching you.
Listen, I absolutely adore this book. I have applied and implemented it in my life. I know it'll help you get unstuck if you're stuck in your recovery. That's 12 Essential Insights for Emotional Sobriety, Getting Your Recovery Unstuck, by our good friend and Take 12 Recovery Radio contributor, Dr. Alan Berger. Where can you get the book? Visit his website at abphd.com, and you can receive an autographed copy. This book is also available on Amazon.
There are so many social networking websites, but one stands apart for a very special reason. They save lives. It's matchingdonors.com, linking organ donors with people in need of kidney and other transplants. In the U.S., 22 people die each day waiting for an organ transplant. Most of them are waiting for kidneys. If you've considered becoming a living organ donor, or if you're in need of an organ transplant, visit matchingdonors.com, home of the greatest gift of all, the gift of life.
Hey, listen, Take 12 Recovery Radio is proud to announce our partnership with some of the best recovery podcasters online today. Folks like Dion, host of Raw Recovery, the Party Wreckers, Matt Brown and Sam Davis, and of course, Dr. Alan Berger from the Emotional Sobriety Podcast, just to name a few. To tune into these amazing shows, visit our website at take12radio.com and click on the Recovery Podcast Network banner. That's Take 12 Recovery Radio, recovery talk, and positive music.
Hope comes and stops us in our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Then is the very talented sounds of Naya, who happens to be our special co-host niece, who wrote that song, which happens to be the theme song for your podcast, Dion, Raw Recovery. So let me tell the listeners about this. Raw Recovery is a trudging together podcast. Creating safe spaces is what they do. Storytelling gives others hope, and after all, we cannot keep what we have unless we give it away, so we give away our stories freely. But sometimes speaking in front of large groups of people, maybe even a small group of people, can be very daunting. So what Raw Recovery does is gives people like you and I the opportunity to come on, share our experience, strength, and hope, with people that may otherwise not hear it, or have the opportunity to hear the kind of hope that is in your personal story. Correct. And Dion does an excellent job of it. He is part of our recovery podcasting network. If you visit us at take12radio.com and you scroll down to the large purple banner, it says Recovery Podcasting Network. Click on it, you'll find Dion's podcast there, along with some others as well. So his website, I'm going to put it up right now, is trudgingtogether.com. You just click on the podcast link, and you'll find his podcast there as well. Dion, welcome to Take 12 Radio, buddy.
Thank you for having me, Monty.
Yeah.
It's good to be on with you. We've done a lot of talking, so it's good to get on here and do step 4 with you.
Yeah, it is. And so we had talked to listeners about doing this 2-part thing here, and giving you the first part, step 4, on our show, and then going over to Dion's show and doing step 5. So you want to make sure you follow the links at Take 12 Radio and the links that Dion will be posting on his social media sites,
correct,
and so forth, to get part 2 of this thing. So part 1, step 4. Now we most of us, if you've been in the rooms a while, you know that step 4 is we kind of make a shift here. From steps 1, 2, and 3, which are really setting the foundation for being able to tap into a power greater than ourselves so we can continue to do this work. Because what we're about to do, you can't do this honestly, fearlessly, and thoroughly unless you have somebody other than your own thinking in charge. And so we do that in step 3. And so step 4 is made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Moral meaning truthful. So we're going to be truthful here. Yeah. And for those of us who have used untruth for so many years as a survival technique, right, this may be a little scary. Yeah. What do you think, Roger? A little scary doing step 4?
I think, because of the unknown and the fact that we're certifiable liars when we get here, that the idea of being truth and sharing all of our issues is daunting. I think that's an appropriate word. Yeah. I like the definition from Webster's Dictionary of moral. It says principles of right and wrong, ethical standards of judgment. And one thing for sure is before I got clean and sober, I had no ethical standards of judgment.
Yeah.
Do tell. Right. Was this a daunting task for you, Dion?
Step 4 was actually kind of natural for me. And the reason being, not that it wasn't tough. Step 4 is tough.
Yeah.
But it's also as hard as you decide to make it. And I've been in therapy since I was 14. And step 4, I don't know if either of you had the chance to read the article that came out a couple weeks ago with Discovery Magazine, where they compared Alcoholics Anonymous to cognitive behavioral therapy. AA is CBT. We are rewiring our brains, and that's what CBT is. And what we're doing is something repetitive, even before we get to step 4. But it was actually kind of a natural process for me to take a look at what it is that I was doing. The hard part was my pride. The part that I didn't want to do was my pride. I didn't want to tell other people what I had done. And I certainly didn't want to confess my sins to another human being and to God. That sounded very, very scary to me. So,
do you think it may show some wisdom to kind of stay away from the whole idea of step 5 for now while we're working on step 4?
That's a very good point, because then we can start to what if we start getting into step 5 on it. That's a very good point. But I think that's why the third step is so important, and it says it in the 12 by 12. That the rest of the steps depend solely on the decision that you make in step 3. And that decision is, how are you willing to go to any length for sobriety? That's the question. And if we can answer that to our satisfaction, then it's time to start on our 4th step. It says we need immediate action. So we need to start on our 4th step and get that grudge list going.
Yeah, and in fact, it says at the end of step 3, it says next we launched. So that's an Air Force term, 0 to 200 within a matter of seconds. So it pains me when I hear people say, well, I did my 3rd step a couple of months ago, and I haven't started my 4th step yet. I'm like, yeah, I understand why you're having trouble then. Yeah, because you need to jump right into that puppy.
And I think part of the problem is, because we're naive to the 4th step when we come in. So we're like, well, I'm on my 4th step, but we're waiting on some structure and direction from our sponsor. So really, it's the sponsor who should be coming on and saying, okay, we've done the third step. Let's set down the rules for the fourth step. That's what my sponsor did with me. And he created structure around it immediately, so I knew what I was doing.
Roger, how did you tackle the 4-step?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So, my sponsor, we did the third step, and my sponsor, I was my first flight to Hawaii in recovery on business. And he said, when you get on that plane, I want you to write out the first column of your 4th step. I want you to write down all your resentments. And I looked at him and I said, I don't have any resentments. And then he gave me some suggestions on what those may entail. And from the time I left Los Angeles International, arrived at Honolulu Airport, I had 57 resentments that were in column 1. And so that was the beginning of 4th step. I took immediate action after I made a decision. And then I got super lazy. I did not complete my 4th step for 18 months.
Wow.
And one morning, I was lazy. I wasn't, as far as I can recall, and everything that I could think, I flat out was not afraid. I was just lazy. I didn't like doing work. So one morning after the meeting, my sponsor said, what are you doing today? And I said, I don't have anything planned. He said, go to the Huntington Beach Library and call me when you get there. And I went, what? He said, go to the library and call me when you get there. So I went there. I called him. He said, get on your knees. We're going to do a 3rd step prayer. I said, what? I'm in the parking lot of the He said, did I stutter? Get on your knees and we're going to do a 3rd step prayer.
Did I stutter?
And I said, okay. And we did it. He said, now go in the library and finish your 4th step and call me when you're done. And I went into the library, and it took me somewhere between 2.5 and 4 hours. And I was completely finished. I called him when I was done. He said, be at my office at 8 o'clock in the morning. I went there, we got on our knees, we did a 3rd step prayer together, and I did my 5th step with him. We cried, we laughed, and I was done. Yeah. So that was insane, but that's my story. I was lazy. I wasn't afraid, but I needed my sponsor to literally give me that push. Because usually he would be a guy that would give me enough rope where I'd hang myself. And then when he was sick and tired of my behavior, he would give me some stern input and direction. In love. I love the guy. Yeah. But I tell that story to every sponsee I work with. I said, I'm not going to let you do that. Because I stunted my recovery for 18 months because I was lazy. So the 5th step was no big deal, and neither was the 4th step when I went and did it. It's a matter of doing it. I'm a procrastinator. I am a super lazy. I have a PhD in procrastination.
That's great. That's a great story. Well, I think my biggest obstacle, of course, was myself, but the tool that I used as an obstacle that prevented me from doing a thorough 4th step was the Abbott Habit. Right? I mean, I was given permission to basically point out the other person's stuff just in column 1. And after that, I don't have that permission anymore. Right? We can't fix what we don't acknowledge. So we have to be able to acknowledge what happened, and so column 1 was great. I feel great about column 1, man. I can write all day long about what you did to me, you jerk, I remember my sponsor just snickering, because he knew what was coming and I didn't. Yeah. And then when we started moving into, even what happened, because the second column is what happened. First column is the names, and second column is what happened, what took place, And every time when I did it, and every time I'd go to read it to him, he'd go, okay, are you sure that's what happened? Or is it possible that was your perception of what happened? And he said, remember now, we're being honest. And I found out that even just in column 2, man, my perceptions were just thwarted, guys. Yeah. Sometimes they were right on, but most of the time my thinking was way off base. Yeah. Most people were not out to get me. Most people were not really trying to ruin Monty's life. It just wasn't true. They may have been going about some things the wrong way. Some of them definitely were very sick and had their own issues. But even though they perpetrated things upon me, it still wasn't about me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Even some of the abuse that I underwent wasn't about me.
Correct.
It was more about some of the things that they were dealing with. And it was interesting because as a person who claimed to be a born-again, Bible-thumping Christian, I wasn't real willing to be Jesus with skin on when it came to approaching these issues.
Yeah.
I was being a right fighter. Were you a right fighter when you were doing it at all, Dion? Or were you ready to you had a point where you were just ready to, man, I got to get this done and heal up?
I had done a 4-step before. So the first time I got sober, I was actually 18 years old, and I was actually at a homeless shelter for homeless alcoholics called the Phoenix Concept. So when I got to the 4-step in my 40s, I was pretty aware of what was going to happen in the 4-step. But there was something that my sponsor did that I really appreciated. And the first rule was I was not allowed to get into particulars. So on my 4-step, I had, I'm going to use my mom. Okay, we've gotten through our stuff, so she don't mind. I love my mommy. We're great. Right, so it's my mom, but I couldn't get into particulars, so I had to think about causes and conditions.
There you go.
Fearless and thorough. And I came up with, she treats me different than the other children. I got down to a condition, and I only got one line for each one. And that really made me think about what went into it. So it was that extra little step that he put in there that I really think made me get down to what I actually needed to.
Wow, that's really good. That's really good because we're looking at, when we get it, and we'll talk about this next week, but in step 5, the exact nature. What is the nature of the wrong, right? And so often, because we take out of context that whole part about every nook and cranny, and we don't want to leave anything covered up. We have a tendency to think that means we got to dig up all this blood and guts and everything else, and totally miss really what's behind it, right?
If we're so busy, particulars just start arguments. Hey, you remember that one time I did something to you? Oh, now they remember. They're going to get mad, and they're going to be like, well, you remember that one time. No, you remember that one time. Now we're just into war stories. And there's nothing going to get accomplished there.
Nobody loves a good war story better than an alcoholic or drug addict. So at the residential recovery program that I used to work at, that was probably the number one bad habit that guys had trouble breaking was the war story thing. Because pride and ego is all wrapped up in that. We're really good at pride and ego. Roger, so do you have an example of, do you feel comfortable in sharing an example of one of your 4-step examples, column 1, column 2, like that kind of thing?
When I did the 4-step, like I said, I was so committed to after being lazy for 18 months, I was so committed to getting through it and that whole rigorous honesty process. I really didn't have any issues. I went back as far as I could remember, and I uncovered everything that I could think about. And it's interesting because when I look back on my this whole tour of recovery, this journey, early on, I was always, or even before I got sober, I was always looking for someone to blame for the things I did. And you know what? I could never, and I mean never emphatically ever find anybody to blame.
Yeah.
So my resentments, while they were real at the time, they were so obvious in terms of being just about me and nobody else, that I didn't really have any particular situations or things that that I couldn't deal with or I couldn't talk about. When I asked my sponsor to be my sponsor, he asked me 3 questions. Are you an alcoholic? Yes, I am. He said, are you willing to go to any lengths to stay sober? And at that point in time, I was a little bit willing. I was 100% done, but I was a little bit willing, marginally open-minded, and I didn't know what humility was. But I was so done drinking and using that I was in the right place to be teachable. That was the last question he asked me. Are you teachable? And I paused, and really, I kind of lied, but I said yes. But I was so done that I was a little willing, a little open-minded, not really humble, but I was so done that I began to become teachable, and that was the process. I think those 18 months I was learning how to get out of myself, how to come to be real, how to stop lying about everything and everybody. I could find no blame. So when I got, I think those 18 months were a God appointment for me to wake up, Roger, and become the man that he created me to be, which I never was before. And without being able to find anybody to blame, the gig's up. Now it's time to clean your house and get real. Get real.
Yep.
Dion, do you think, this whole, because you talked about it at the very beginning of the show. Do you think this, are you willing to go to any length question? Do you think that is one of those things that we are by piecemeal uncovering the meaning to that the further we get into the steps, or do you think a person actually gets what that means right away?
No, they're not going to understand. Well, willingness becomes different as you move along. Yeah. And what's great about willingness is it's indispensable. And we use it for almost every step.
Yeah.
So even with Roger, he said he was just a little bit willing. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. It doesn't take much more than that. Are you going to understand the full implication? Probably not, because it hasn't happened yet. We don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
So, so as far as that goes, I know that step 4 is not a secret. Between television and movies, pretty much everybody pretty much knows what to expect. Kinda. They kind of do it right on TV, right? But the willingness is just gonna. Even for me to this day, I'm coming up on 7 years. Willingness is different for me today than it was.
Oh, okay.
And really, what is willing to go to any length? Willing to go to any length means doing these steps. That's what that means.
Yeah, good point. So when I was asked that question, are you willing to go to any length to get sober, stay sober? Not knowing, of course, that there was a difference between sobriety and recovery, and a difference between recovery and a state of recovered, et cetera. But those things would, more would be revealed, right? Those things would become known to me as I'm moving forward. But it was because I wanted my consequences to change that I said yes to that question.
Yeah.
And that was an immature motivation, but it was a good enough motivation at the time. It was the only one I had. Because I didn't know any different. I just knew that I was in pain and I wanted the pain to stop.
Yeah.
Later I found out that being willing, like you said, would mean much more than just wanting my consequences to change. That it involved so many wonderful gifts, and so you got a kitty on your shoulder.
I do.
Aw,
it's a recovery kitty.
Recovery kitty.
He's going to be recovering all right.
And that there was so many more gifts, surrounding around that. Now I ask myself that question when it comes to a lot of things. Okay, you're going to ask. We're getting ready. My wife and I are getting ready to re-side our home with some pretty top-notch siding. It's concrete and all that, and so because we don't want to have problems down the road, so we want to do it right, and so this is going to require going to our credit union and talking to them about money. Now, we are very much in favor of no man anything, and so we have no debt. The only debt that we have has to do with our house, and this would be one of those things. And so I asked myself, am I willing to go to any length to stay out of debt? Am I willing to go to any length to be a responsible husband financially? Am I willing, you know what I mean? Instead of just jumping on the first, bid that comes along because it looks good, so it's something I can apply in my life now in all sorts of aspects of my life, which is an amazing gift that the recovery, literature has given all three of us to be able to do. But I had no clue, and I had to be reminded by my sponsor on several occasions. Remember when you said, because that's not what that's not what you're displaying right at the moment, Yeah, but.
Yeah, but.
No. Yeah, but. Yeah, but. No. Okay, I understand. Okay, let me put it another way. No, you're not going to put it another way either. Oh my goodness. Searching and fearless. Searching. When I read that, I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
Because I do know some stuff, and I don't know if I want to dig that up.
Yeah.
It was a boogeyman that had more bark than bite, to tell you the truth.
Yep.
Did you find that to be true?
I did.
Yeah.
I found that my problems were bigger than I thought that they were because I'm an extremist. That's how I always dealt with my problems. If they weren't big enough, then I had to make them bigger, so I know how to deal with them. But once I got to a point where I didn't need the drama in my life in order to survive, my problems became right-sized. And I found that I could walk through those things with courage just by reaching out and asking God for a little bit of help, a little bit of humility.
Well, it's interesting because our friend who sent in this that we used on Conspiracy Corner, we had some fun with it. But if I was sponsoring this guy, I'd be saying, and if we even got to the 4-step, I'd be saying, I think you need to do a 4-step around AA.
Yeah.
I know folks that I think they need to do a 4-step around God.
And God was on my 4-step, so was AA.
Sure. I hate. I mean, there was a guy. I was in a meeting the other day, and there was a gentleman. I won't say what fellowship or anything, but there was a gentleman who said, well, we pay rent at this church, but we're not affiliated, by golly, and I'm offended that anybody would talk about God the way you guys are talking about God. And nobody was talking about God in an anti-AA traditional kind of way at all. And I thought to myself, man, if I was this guy's sponsor, I'd be going, brother, you need to do a 4-step around God, man.
Yeah.
You are really struggling here. This isn't about what the people are sharing in the meetings at all.
Yeah.
And so my sponsor had me do that. I didn't think I had any resentments towards God. Oh, man, was I surprised.
Yeah.
God, you make a lot of promises, but blah, 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 blah. So
all the times you didn't get me out of jail when I asked, what the heck?
Yeah. My big one, I've been sober for several years, and my son, my oldest boy, he got really, really sick. And I was praying like crazy, and I was pulling out all the scripture verses that had to do with, let the little children come unto me, and all the things about how God cares about little children and everything. And I was shoving it right back in God's face and go, evidently you don't care, because I'm reading all this stuff in your word and you're going back on it because you're not healing him the way I want you to.
Yeah.
Right. And I had to sit down and do an inventory on that.
Yeah.
And my son is fine today.
Imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that, right? Oh my gosh! We spent the day with both of our boys yesterday, and our new grandchild, Pierce.
Congratulations!
Yeah, that is a blessing. The amazing gifts that come our way when we do this work.
Yeah.
Right, that we otherwise would have missed.
Oh.
It is just amazing stuff.
No.
So searching means we're gonna be uncovering some stuff.
Yep.
Fearless. I don't know that I was always fearless, but I to my best ability, I tried that. You know. Yeah. What do you? Let me ask Roger first. What do you think about this idea that some people have? Because we may differ. All of us may differ on this one. We'll see. And by the way, let me preface it by saying I'm not saying this is right or wrong or in between. Yeah. Roger, what do you think about this idea that a person needs to go through the 12 steps formally every single year? For instance, doing a 4-step every single year. What do you think about that?
Well, I believe that if we're doing a 10-step every day, that we should never have a reason to have to do a 4-step, because the daily inventory is the moment-by-moment daily 4-step. So I don't believe that you have to do a 4-step every year unless you're not doing a 10-step and you've now acquired new resentments and new issues to deal with. I don't ever want to carry that baggage around or accumulate that kind of baggage. In fact, frequently, when I'm wrong, promptly admitted it. Well, sometimes I do that promptly and sometimes I don't. But the day's not going to end unless I deal with that in some fashion, because I don't want to wake up the next morning with that in my head. Right. It doesn't work. It's freaking evil, quite frankly, and it doesn't make my day or my moments go right. So I'm so over ruining my moment and ruining my day. And I think those 18 months in my 4-step gave me the courage that I needed, because during those 18 months, I certainly had every opportunity to pray and think about all of the issues that were going to be written down beyond my resentments. I had already finished the resentments. And the more that I thought and dug deep, there was nothing to be afraid of for me. I mean, I couldn't find anybody to blame. So I was over that sort of piece of the journey. I was just ready to get rid of it. I was ready to get rid of it. And I wanted to be fearless, and I wanted to be comprehensive. And so I guess if that was courage, then that's what God gave me, was the courage to proceed. But I know the freedom I felt once I finished the 5th step. And then, of course, it's all into rigorous action, too, as we move on. But, in hindsight, I just realized I didn't know anything about anything. And I thought I knew a lot because I was a college graduate, don't you know, and blah, blah, blah. And I just, shut up, Roger, and grow up. That, my self-talk today is incredibly healthy, because it's based on Scripture, it's based on the 12 steps, and it's based on truth. And I was a consummate liar my whole life and did not live in truth. And I had more yeah buts and explanations. People used to say, Roger, I don't want any more explanations from you. I said, well, this isn't an explanation. This isn't an excuse. It's an explanation. And they just look at me and go, Roger, face the truth.
I did that. This
so
is
I
an
don't have
excuse.
excuses or explanations anymore. I can't rationalize or justify my self-centeredness in any way, shape, or form during the course of the day. And if I do, I need to immediately get into prayer. Call my sponsor. Admit it in it. I'm big in admitting it in meetings. I will tell on myself all the time in meetings. And so if newcomers hear a guy that's got a significant amount of sobriety, just realize that the mind still is sick. I have a chronic mind of an alcoholic, but I've got a spirit and soul that's more powerful.
Well said. Well said. What do you think, Dion? Do you think we should do a formal working of the steps every year?
I believe that the maintenance steps are there to maintain your sobriety. I did one 4-step, and I think the real question is questions like, do you want to be sane? Do you want to work the 10th step? I think is actually the question. Because the 10th step is where our sanity returns. And that is where our will aligns with God. It's the human step, literally. It allows us to be human and to right any mistakes as we go along. Why would I want to hold on to a resentment that I'm going to work on in 6 months? That I can't comprehend.
Yeah.
So I think the question is, did you really do a fearless and thorough inventory the first time? Are you actually doing the maintenance steps? Because I've noticed the first area people have trouble with is that 4-step. After that is 10, 11, and 12. A lot of people disappear when they start coming up on 11. That fear comes back. Something happens. And we're supposed to be gaining more courage. I think this is a great question. And I think it's particular for anybody. I'm not going to say, hey, if you got to do that every year, don't.
Sure.
So, and I do believe that everybody's recovery is their own and that their path may look different. So, but I really see just excuses for not continuing to do the work. Maybe we enjoy sitting in our insanity so that we can still provide excuses for some of our behavior. Right?
Yeah.
We're not allowed to do that anymore. We've got to move on. I'm not that Dion anymore. Why would I want to go back? I don't want to go back. No, I'm going to stay in the sunlight of the spirit. I'm going to go to meetings every day. I'm going to connect with people. I'm going to podcast. And I'm going to be honest about what I do.
Right. Good answer. Good answer. Well, I'm kind of with you guys. I think the doing a step a month thing that's fine at meeting level for topic's sake, I suppose. It's January, we're doing step 1. It's February, we're doing step 2. That's all well good. But on a personal recovery level, if you're doing a step a month and it's taking you over a year to get through the steps, okay, I'm going to get in trouble by this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You might just drink again.
You might.
You know, I mean, for me, it was life or death. I needed to get, if you've got, if you're under a pile of rubble and the emergency medical technicians are showing up, you don't say, hey guys, take your time. Just take your time. No, it's now. We got to do this solution now. But I don't walk around with a bunch of 3x5 cards in my pocket. And when somebody, pushes my buttons, oh, excuse me, let me work a 4-step on that. Yeah, we intuitively learn how to handle situations that used to baffle us. So now we don't have to sit down with a binder and pen. Okay, I know I'm about ready to get into a knockdown drag out with you. Can you put everything on pause? I got to go home and call my sponsor and work through this, and I'll be back in an hour. No. I mean, that's just not even realistic. But I know folks, and I was kind of that guy, for a while. I think that the what we refer to as the maintenance steps, 10, 11, and 12, are even more than that, really. They're continuing to grow steps. Because I'm learning more and more about myself, as I live in those. When you reflect on your day and you ask God for guidance, I mean, that's pretty simple.
It is.
On your day, ask God to show you where you were a knucklehead.
Yeah. You know what? It hasn't changed since I was a wee little baby. If I did something wrong, my tummy hurts. It still happens.
Yeah.
It still happens.
Yeah.
They're called really good point. I always go to my tummy first. Always. Because my tummy. And it knows right from wrong.
Yes, it does.
It's very interesting, though, isn't it? Particularly in the world we live in today, where so much of what the three of us recognize as being moral, being right, that there is this flavor, this whole attitude of, well, it's your truth. There's my truth and your truth.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And I always use this example. Go, okay, let's call let me say it's Roger, right? And Roger says, well, my truth is, okay. All right, Roger. Well, Roger, give me a few minutes. I'm going to go out to your car. Which one's your car? Oh, it's the Chevy. Oh, okay. I'm going to go out and I'm going to puncture your tires. Well, you can't do that. Well, yeah, it's my truth. It's my reality. It's my reality. So, Roger, what you need to do is whatever your reality is, you got to do whatever you got to do. If you're going to punch me in the nose, or if you're going to forgive me, that's none of my business. But my business is to puncture your tires because that's my reality.
Yeah.
That's the kind of world we're living in today. And so this 12-step work can be challenging. Even because you said it, Dion, you said this whole thing. We're thinking our thinking is changing.
Yeah.
Our DNA in our brain is
literally
changing.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And to walk somebody through this step process in the world we're living today, it's going to bring challenges that I don't think we've ever seen before. We're really going to need to step up to the plate. People that before weren't willing to sponsor people, you need to step up to the plate.
Yeah.
You need to work these steps so you have a spiritual awakening as a result of that, and then you need to work with other people. Would you guys agree?
Absolutely.
You know, when I talk to folks when we're in the discussion about these kinds of things, like I'm going to try to do my steps, or I'm doing a step a month, or I just simply say, well, let's talk about your addiction. Let's talk about when you were going to get another drink, another fix, sex, whatever it was that you were going to get. Did you ever try to do any of that?
Yeah.
No, nothing would stop me or stop Monty or stop Dion from getting whatever it was that I wanted to get. No person, no place, no thing. So I was fully committed to get what I wanted to get. And when I got it, it wasn't enough and I wanted more. That's the kind of input, or that's the kind of perspective we need to do in the recovery. And Dr. Bob said it in Dr. Bob's Nightmare. If you put 50% of that energy that nothing would stop you from getting another drink or drug into this program, he said, quote, this program will never fail you. He said, your Heavenly Father will never let you down. 50% of that, because nothing would stop us from destroying ourselves when we were after whatever we were after.
Yeah.
And the word try is not in the big book. The word try is not part of the 12 steps, 12 traditions, or 12 concepts. There's no try.
Correct.
There's no but. There's no well, maybe.
Right.
Okay, well, you never
There's
did
only
any of that when you were in your addiction. Action and change.
God either is or he isn't. You're either pregnant or you're not.
I had to stop playing God, right?
Yeah, we have a bunch of people out there that want to be heard for who they are, right? But they don't know how. They don't know the right arenas. And it's kind of hard to express yourself if you don't even know who you are.
Sure.
Right? I'm 52 and just learning how Dion is and what Dion is and what I should become and what kind of a human being I am to other people. So, so it's going to be tough to be in that kind of an area if you don't know who you are yet.
So speaking of who you are, Dion, because we're
Dion, who are you?
We're coming down to wrapping up the show here. Tell the listeners, excuse me, sorry about that. Tell the listeners how they can listen to your Trudging Together, how they can listen to your podcast, and where they can get a hold of you.
And absolutely. I'm just gonna tell one more thing on my 4th step.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Do one more quick thing. I was to work on it 15 to 20 minutes a day, and that was it. So
interesting.
And you have to, and there's 2 rules there. Work on it, but let's say I'm done. I put it away. This is me letting go and letting God. And if I need to put something else in it, too bad. You got to wait till tomorrow. And it's a trick. It's like reverse psychology. Oh, well, if I can't, then I'm going to do it. Works real well on alcoholics. So anyway.
That's cool. I like
alcoholic, you, Dion.
We're so tricksy. We're not hiding anything. Trudging Together. So you can find our podcast in a lot of places, but I prefer the website, which is trudgingtogether.com. And you can just click on podcasts and it'll take you there. We are coming out with more podcasts. We are beginning to grow. Monty is coming on. I have a new series that's coming up with Women Helping Women. I will not be a part of that. We have some ACA people coming on to help us out. But mostly the podcast is about letting people who usually can't tell their stories come on and tell their stories. There's a lot of people out there that are either too scared or can't, or there's a number of different reasons. The number one fear is public speaking. Then it's death. Then the dentist. So that tells you our priorities. Okay? So when I do this, it's just you and me, and we sit down, and it's just like what you heard here. It's a conversation about you and your life and your experience, strength, and hope. I have a lot of empathy, and it comes out in the show. And at the moment, we got over 70 podcasts, and they're fantastic. I also go live every single day with what's called the Daily Trudge. I've been doing that for over 4 years now. Every day, I've been going live. So don't tell me that you run out of topics, because you don't.
No, you don't.
There's so many topics. I've barely even touched it. I've got over 2,000 videos on my YouTube, which you can find on the webpage. But I prefer mostly people go to the webpage or my Facebook, which is Trudging Together. If you need to reach me, you can reach me at dion@trudgingtogether.com.
Awesome. And if they do go to your social media site, if they go to your Facebook page and you're doing Trudging Together, they can interact with you because you do that live, true?
That's correct. So when I do the Daily Trudge, it is an interactive. And the reason that it's interactive is because I want people to hear other people's experiences too, not just mine.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm just getting the conversation going. Sometimes I'll cover harder topics. I don't like to talk about the weather. If I'm going to have a conversation, there needs to be some experience, strength, and hope and meaning behind it. So, but we cover a lot of different topics.
Yeah, yes, you do, and you do a very fine job on it as well. I've listened to several of the podcast listeners, some amazing stories in there. Just good job, brother. Good on you. Appreciate it very, very much. So, listeners, part 2 of this, discussing step 5, will be broadcast on Dion's podcast, and you'll be able to next Monday. You'll be able to watch that and listen to that by going to trudgingtogether.com/podcast. That's where it'll be posted, right?
That is correct. It'll also be on my Podbean, and then of course I will send it to you so that you can also put it out.
Yeah,
but it'll be out plenty of places. You'll find it. You can find it either at the website, my website, Monty's website, or Trudging Together group.
Yeah, and so Roger, you'll be joining us for that one as well.
Actually, I just realized I'm in a golf tournament next Monday, gentlemen. So I will be thinking about you while I'm out there and having a cigar and enjoying God's beautiful creation with a little white ball.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
it was great meeting you, Roger.
But I would, Dion, you're not going to be able to get rid of me now, brother.
Yeah, that's
good, because I don't feel like being getting rid of. So.
There you go.
That's
it's
no
a
lie.
me thing, I've been told.
Roger is a music guy. I mean, he if you're into all different kinds of music and stuff, Roger, let's put it. Roger knows folks.
Yeah. Roger and I
pretend I'm somebody important, Dion. So I like to tell you I know stuff and know people, but I just have been around a lot of years. I just been around a long time.
Experience.
So I'm gonna do a shameless plug here. On Monday, March 27th, Ricky Bird, formerly from Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, will be on my show to share his story of experience, strength, and hope.
Wow.
And he is very active with Richie Supa from Recovery Unplugged. That's a music therapy recovery group.
Mm-hmm.
Richie, of course, is dear friends with Steven Tyler and those guys. And I had the honor of covering the 12-Step Music Fest for a number of years, which was in the Florida Keys, where a lot of these, what a lot of people didn't realize, a lot of these really big-name artists were giving of much of their time to the music industry of recovery. And it was awesome. It was an awesome privilege, and was able to meet many of these folks. So it's been great. So I'll look forward to that, folks, on Monday, March 27th, posted by 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Ricky Bird and I will be talking about his story. Dion, thank you so much, buddy.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. I'm really looking forward to doing more things with you and Roger and what you have going on. And I just felt like this was a great connection. You know?
Yeah.
And the more people we can help, then the more we can do.
That's right.
Right there. Yeah.
Absolutely. I look forward.
You too, Roger.
I look forward to it too, guys. It's a good partnership. All right, so hang in there with me, guys, here for a few minutes. Our closing song is by our good friend and recovery recording artist, Mr. Mike O'Brien. Roger, you're a Mr. Positive guy. This song is called Might As Well Be Me. Someone's going to have a good day today, and might as well be me.
Amen.
Here's Mike.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot that could bring me down, but I'm not gonna go there. Today I wanna rise above. I could spend so much time in my head till I lose my mind, but I'm not gonna go there. Today I'll listen to my heart. Someone's gonna have a good day today. Might as well be me. Someone's gonna shine a light today. Might as well be me. Someone's gonna have a good day today. Might as well be me. Shine a light. Come on, let's shine. Won't you shine a light? Come on, let's shine. Someone's gonna have a good day today. Might as well be me. Someone's gonna shine a light today. Might as well be me. Someone's gonna have a good day today. Might as well be me. Someone's gonna have a good day today. Might as well be me.
A very special thank you to my co-host, Roger McDermott from Huntington Beach, California, and our guest this week, Dion Miller. Make sure you check out his website at trudgingtogether.com, where you'll find the Raw Recovery Podcast. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty'man along with the rest of the Take 12 Recovery radio family, and we are wishing God's perfect serenity for you.
Might as well be me.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.